Let's take a look at some charts on EOS from this week's article on Brave New Coin. So my own personal sentiment around EOS is disappointment regarding the ICO raise, the amount of capital Block 1 has, and the amount of things that have been done with EOS. You just expect more when you raise billions. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd expect robust infrastructure. I'd expect massive community, massive appeal. I'm just not seeing it. They have Voice, they have Rex, they have Yup, this new social influencing dApp, but market doesn't see value here. Especially when you compare it to other coins, it's a really tough sell. Even Ripple has come out of its bearish trend. Obviously BTC and ETH has, but even Monero has just spanked the pants off of EOS over the past 3 months price-wise. So it's a tough sell right now for EOS. If you look at the block producer list, the validators, most of them are in Asia, which is a decentralization issue. Most of them are exchanges, which is a decentralization issue. The website I used previously for this information is no longer in operation, which is perhaps a canary in the coal mine for infrastructure on EOS. Again, I expect somebody with a lot of money to pay for, encourage, subsidize information that's valuable. 55% of the network's being staked currently. Let me just flip to this real quick. Most of it is greater than any other staking network notionally aside from DOT, ADA, and Tezos. Atom, Algo, Tron, Band. These are all slightly less than EOS in a notional value. But 1.5 billion is a lot of notional being staked, but it's surprisingly less percentage network-wise than it used to be. If I remember correctly, I think it was closer to 70% being staked, and now that's down to 55% of the network. If we look at the GitHub commits on the main repo, again, it's a little concerning that commits have declined since 2018 pretty dramatically, and there have been no commits on this specific repo since July. Undoubtedly, some EOS bot or some EOS community member is going to say, I'm looking at the wrong repo, or there's commits being handled privately, or something about Larimer's development. But what I'm looking at here in a vacuum, not great. You know, if you just have a checklist of things you want for a project, if you're an investor, right? I want activity, I want a community, I want infrastructure, I want developers. Hard to see that on EOS right now from the development side. They have ancillary projects like I mentioned at the beginning, but I don't see the improvements on the main repo here recently. If you look at some on-chain data, transactions per day have quadrupled since January, which is good. In late last year, they had an airdrop that kind of crippled the network. Blocks per day dropped way down. And so the network has recovered since from that. And these transactions look much more organic than previously. Anytime I see day over day massive increases or drops like this, it just says there's some sort of bot activity or something going on that isn't necessarily people. So to see the slow rise makes sense and looks better from a network perspective. I have more confidence in the on-chain data here that it's real. And it's a bit of a divergence from price because price is declining and on-chain data is increasing. So this is a way more bullish picture than price leads on. If we look at all the dApps on EOS, the highest by volume is an exchange. No surprise there. Most of the others are gambling, Ponzi, pyramid scam related, and a little bit of DeFi stuff mixed into there. Overall, though, these volumes are still pretty high on EOS, and you don't get the fees you get on ETH. So if anything, dApps on EOS are actually better than ETH because it's free. There are no fees on EOS as far as transactions are concerned. If we look at Google Trends for EOS.io specifically, it's declined since 2018, and there really hasn't been an uptick significant enough to register here over the past few years, other than mid-2019, and that was super brief. Flipping to technicals, we have Bitfinex long shorts up here, VPVR, RSI volume, yearly pivots, and 15200 EMA. So a few things catch my eye here. The first being these Bitfinex longs are at close to an all-time high, sitting at 93% net long, probably the highest it's ever been aside from maybe early 2020. So it's heavy on the long side here. If this drops any further, you're going to see a long squeeze, and that's going to cause a further drop. Not saying it'll happen, but something to watch for. The second thing that catches my eye is the pyramid of VPVR here. Price-wise, it's kind of exactly where you'd expect it to be based on volume based on consolidation periods, based on historic price action. So there's a big line in the sand here. It's pretty bearish below 2.6, below 2.4, and it starts to get more and more bullish above 3. And you can see all the notches here as far as resistance is concerned. $4 is a yearly pivot, $7 is a yearly pivot. So if this does turn up, that's where it's headed. No bull or bear divs on RSI yet. Volume is pretty mediocre for Bitfinex, especially compared to prior July 2019. I mean, it's just like nobody cares about EOS right now on the trading department for Bitfinex specifically. Then the last thing here is the death cross reoccurred last month. So this definitely leans more bearish than bullish. And if you look at all of the crosses since 2018, most of these have been bearish with a long duration, 150, 200 days. So it's hard to get bullish just looking at all that stuff together. And this is probably the most bearish of anything is this pitchfork, this trend channel. Price wants to return to this median line. So long as the trend channel holds, price will have to break 295 and stay there, stay above that level to break this channel. You can see we've been above the median line since 2019, but it's been unable to break the channel. So it's hard to get bearish on this specifically if the rest of the market is bullish. I think this will end up doing just fine because I think the rest of the market will be bullish. But if we go deeply bearish for some reason on BTC and ETH, for example, I do expect a 90-cent tap, just like in March on this median line. That's the target I'd be watching for on any down move. Cloud is also bearish. It's been bearish since late August. Below the cloud here, bit of a TKC clamp suggesting oversold conditions, and it'll be bullish again above 310. But right now it just looks so bearish on everything you can measure. So if this does break local lows around 150, yikes. I think 90 cents most certainly. Here's a bit of a bullish ray of hope in that on the EOS BTC chart. Despite pushing multi-year lows, it does have a bullish divergence. I would really like to see a spike in volume for capitulation. People just throwing their hands up and saying, I've had enough. Definitely a lot of volume support at around 15K sats should it go that deep. But trend-wise, this continues to be bearish, has been bearish since mid-2019. So overall, it's hard to be bullish on EOS, even though on-chain activity is hot. Much of that related to DeFi exchanges, gambling. Transactions are free, so that's good from a usability standpoint. But the coin itself just is not performing well over the past 2 years, and it's not outperforming other coins that are competitors to EOS, like ETH. You know, EOS was dubbed this ETH killer, but in reality, price-wise, it has done the opposite. Even though fees on ETH are the highest they've ever been, there isn't a large flock of people transitioning from ETH to EOS that I can see.